I'm meeting today with Ronni Adams, and we're here to talk about the Safe Child Act. And you might wonder, well, what are we doing in this location? It's because Ronni actually doesn't live in the Salt Lake area. You're down from Logan. And so she was kind enough to tell me that she was in town, and on the spur of the moment, I was just talking with her, and so she said, I'm going to be here if you want to just meet. So we're meeting here at the Sizzler and Sugar House. So if you're wondering why we're here in this setting, that's why we're meeting. So today we're going to talk about the Safe Child Act. And that's something that you've been behind and something that you're supporting and wanted people to know about. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what the Safe Child Act is and what it addresses, and then we can talk a little bit about why you think it's such a good idea.
Okay, sounds good. So the Safe Child Act was written by a domestic violence expert that's been in the field for 30 plus years. And he saw a need for a change in our family courts and in how they were addressing custody with children with abusive parents. The Safe Child Act will require that courts put the health and safety of children as their primary priority when determining custody.
Well, don't they already do that then, when the parents are abusive?
Well, it's part of the consideration, but under the best interests of the child, it's only one of many. Because we created our courts a long time ago and we didn't have a lot of information about domestic violence, it was set up in a way that's not working for children, and over 58,000 children every year are placed with abusive parents.
Okay. So what you're saying is that the best interest of the child standard, although it's supposed to take into account the health and safety of the kids, doesn't focus enough on the health and safety of children when they have one or both abusive parents.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing the Safe Child Act does is it will require anyone involved in family court that deals with domestic violence case to receive domestic violence education. Right now we're seeing so many cases that have bad outcomes because our judges and our custody evaluators and our guardian ad litems, our special masters don't have this education in domestic violence. And I can tell you from experience that an abuser is hard to spot. You know, we women that end up, or men even, that end up getting involved with them don't see it until it's too late.
And let me get you that, because this is, obviously you're a woman, and so is this kind of a man-hating bill? There's going to be plenty of people who are going to ask that question. But you're saying, look, we're talking about children abused by either parent or both parents, whether that be the man or the woman, the husband or the wife, or something like, or the father or the mother.
Yeah, this is not a men versus women issue. This is the vast majority of good men out there and good mothers against abusers. We want to protect children. This is a child welfare bill.
So is it slanted to favor women? Because that's a knock on a lot of legislation.
It's not gender biased at all. There's no gender specific language in the bill at all. Aside from additional education for judges, the Safe Child Act calls for the use of domestic violence experts in domestic violence cases. Because right now, the abusers are getting away with it because nobody recognizes them for what they are.
So you're saying one of the things is that judges need to know more about how to recognize it, what kind of evidence to seek and evaluate, as do the custody evaluators, the special masters, and the guardians ad litem. Now, if we're using terms you're not familiar with, then that'll be something you can look up. But generally speaking, we know what a judge is. The judge is the person who's going to be representing the state, using the power of the state to make child custody orders. A custody evaluator is just as it sounds. Typically a mental health professional, like a psychologist or a licensed clinical social worker or a marriage and family therapist, and they're the ones that will meet with the children, meet with the parents, maybe run some psychological tests. And then a guardian ad litem is an attorney that is sometimes, but not always, appointed to represent the interests of the children in a divorce or other kind of child custody case. And you're saying there are situations where people may believe, like, well, if you're appointed to represent children, you must have expertise. But all you really need to do is just show an interest in it and that you're willing to represent children. The amount of training I happen to know personally consists of just a few hours of training. And a lot of it is in the form of like watching a video, so it's not even one-on-one training. And I do know that there are judges that some take a very keen interest in this, and others just don't have that background. They were never family law attorneys when they were made judges, and they hear a variety of cases, and so they may or may not have much of an interest or think that they know enough when in fact they don't. Okay.
And I really believe that the majority of judges, custody evaluators, all these court personnel that work in a system that deals so much with protecting children and advocating for children's well-being, I really believe that they do have children's best interests at heart. I think they just need more education because from my own experience, I have seen that the system isn't working.
So, and this bill, does it do anything else besides that, or is that the crux of the bill, is that it's saying you've got to get a certain minimum amount of training and expertise in this area?
And continued training.
Is there anything else that this bill addresses?
There's one other thing that it addresses. There's something that's frequently used in custody cases, that specifically contested custody cases, that's something that abusers have made very good use of, called parental alienation syndrome, also called parental alienation. And it's something that was...
And you might think that she's like, wait a minute, how is parental alienation any different from parental alienation syndrome?
Yeah.
The reason is there are those in the mental health professions who think that parental alienation syndrome may not exist.
Yeah.
But everybody can more or less agree that there are instances of parental alienation and how that is committed. So that's why she's making that distinction between parental alienation and parental alienation syndrome, depending upon what school of thought you're a part of.
Yes, well, they're basically using it interchangeably. Parental alienation was concocted years ago by a guy named Richard Garner, who didn't have any evidence to back it up, but people just kind of took it and ran with it. And the American Academy of Psychiatrics, is that what it is?
Right. In other words,
APA?
Yeah, the
APA, the people that decide about syndromes, refused repeatedly to allow parental alienation syndrome to be entered in the DSM-5, their statistical manual.
One of those psychiatric pathologies.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And
they
so,
refused to enter it.
So what does this bill do? Because I haven't read the bill completely. It was Ronni sent me a copy, and I was like, this is interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to endorse it or to criticize it. That's why I'm just asking Ronni to talk about it. But I did notice that right now, the idea of one parent using the children as pawns, or one parent trying to win the affections of the children or the loyalty of the children to the detriment of the other parent, is something that a lot of judges and a lot of commissioners in Utah don't want to hear.
Yeah.
And they don't want to think about it. They don't want to acknowledge it's happening. Now remember, that's why we're talking about. They may say, well, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not going to diagnose parental alienation syndrome. But I think what you're asking is, look, we're not asking you to put on a psychiatrist or a psychologist hat.
Yeah.
But we are asking you, Your Honor, when mom or dad doesn't put the name of the other parent on the school or the church or the athletic records, what's going on? When mom or dad will tell the children, I'm sorry, we can't get you a bicycle because the parent that pays child support won't pay. When mom or dad is telling the kids, or is bringing the kids to the wrong soccer field and saying, I don't know why dad didn't show up.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, and we're saying this is what's happening is it's twofold. It's hurting the kids, but it's also making the parent look bad. So it's not only, in some respects, not only parental alienation, but it's also judicial alienation, because a lot of times the courts will buy into it.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is this bill?
I think there's a difference between estrangement and alienation.
Okay.
I think estrangement
And you're right.
is what you're describing. I think that is, I think that's more estrangement. But parental alienation syndrome, that was endorsed and invented by Richard Gardner, said that allegations of child abuse and sexual abuse are brought up only in contested custody cases, only by mothers in order to take custody from fathers, that they were basically brainwashing the children. So now what we're seeing in the court system, you go to a lawyer and you tell them about valid abuse that has happened, and they will tell you, do not bring it up in court, you will be charged with parental alienation, and people are
Not as a
losing
crime.
their kids
Yeah,
left and
you'll
right.
be accused of it. You'll be accused of being an alienator.
Yeah. And so then after that happens, then they lose custody of the kids, and quite often the kids are placed in extremely harmful reunification programs.
So no good deed goes unpunished. Here you are saying, I'm getting out of an abusive situation.
Yeah.
I'm accusing somebody truthfully of abuse, and that's being turned around on me to say, I can't believe that you would smear the good name of this other parent.
Yeah.
So you know what? Not only am I not going to give you the relief you want, I'm going to give the kids to the abuser because you can't prove it or something like that.
Because as the accuser, you're not the friendly parent. You know.
Yeah, you're doing this maliciously.
Yeah. And that's a
Wait a
common
minute.
bias.
What if I've got proof that the kids are showing up with broken bones and chipped teeth and black eyes? Am I still going to be accused of that? Probably not.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
It still happens.
It can still happen, but those people are not going to succeed because if you have, if
you
you've
hope
got the
not.
goods, right? You hope not, right? But if you've got the goods on the other parent,
Yeah.
and the kids are old enough to say it's like, "Daddy hit me, Mommy kicked me."
Mm-hmm.
You know, these burns, cigarette burns, are from Mommy or Daddy.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the kind of abuse that this parent may know about, especially sexual abuse.
Yeah.
Where the parent doesn't want to get caught, knows he or she is going to prison.
Yeah.
And then this other parent, trusting in the system to do the right thing, goes into court and accuses somebody accurately,
Yeah.
only to find out, no, you are a horrible person for saying such a thing. And do you have anything to back that up? Do you have any evidence?
Yeah.
Evidence of sexual abuse? How would I ever collect it?
And why would you wait till it got to that point? Like for my
The
situation.
fact that you didn't report it soon enough means that you're equally, maybe even worse.
Yeah. Well, then you would. What is it? They can charge you with failure to protect or something, you know. But I mean, if you're paying attention, or if you know what to look for, like in my case, the vast majority of the abuse was emotional, verbal, financial, sexual, and then occasionally punctuated by instances of physical violence. That doesn't give you a lot to prove in court, but you talk to almost any victim and they will tell you that the psychological and coercive control is what they're calling it now, is worse than the physical abuse. You know, bruises, broken bones heal more quickly than someone's psyche.
So how do you avoid?
It's hard to prove it.
How do you avoid having How do you avoid having good faith allegations of abuse that you made, for example, or that I would make?
Yeah.
How do you prevent? How's this bill going to helps prevent that from being turned around on somebody?
Because if you had judges and others in the court system that were educated about it, they would be able to pinpoint it. Like, for example, my custody evaluation, I thought, you know, I've got to have faith in this custody evaluator. I've got to tell the truth. I've got to talk about what's going on. And there were so many red flags in the appointment I had with my abuser, but he didn't see him at all, and he gave him more time with his daughter. When I could see that he was grooming her for sexual assault, he'd been emotionally abusing her for years, and she had to watch him abuse his second wife and now his girlfriend. And I'm going to the courts about this, and nothing's being done. And I start researching, and I start talking to people, and I find out it's going on everywhere. And I decided that I have to do something.
Now, I would imagine that I'm not the first that might bring up the fact that people might say, look, you have an agenda, you had a really messy divorce, and so you're out for revenge, and you're nuttier than a fruitcake. And we do know there are people that will do that.
Yeah.
But, Ronnie, I've never met you before or anything like that. So is there, what is it, and I don't know the answer to this question, but what is it that what education does a judge or commissioner or a guardian ad litem or custody evaluator or special master lack that will help them to make a better, more accurate call than they're doing now? I mean, because if you've got sexual abuse going on with a small child who maybe can't talk or can't express him or herself very well, what's lacking? I mean, what magic information do they not have that's apparently out there? And again, I'm not doing this to make you look foolish,
No.
but that's going to be a
That's
question
fine.
that people are going to
Yeah.
ask. They're going to say,
Yeah.
oh, really? It's just a matter of not having all the education. What is it they're missing?
So there's a lot of warning signs and a lot of things that someone who's trained in domestic violence would be able to see. And unless you've been extensively trained in it, they're difficult to see. And a lot of times the actions look very innocuous. Something that has meaning and is a threat to the victim, but other people wouldn't realize. And the majority of the time, people in the system take things on a case-by-case basis. But in order to see what's really going on, you have to look at the whole pattern of it to see the, what's the word I'm thinking of? To see what the abuser's doing and the harm it causes.
People are still going to get it wrong then, but you're just trying to reduce the instances then? Is that what you're trying to do here? Sounds like a lot of this is as much art as it is science. Do you know what
Experience,
I mean?
a lot of it, experience.
But people are still going to slip through the cracks, but you're just trying to make them more aware of what's happening and help them to take a bigger picture view of it and be aware of the fact that what we have right now may be courts giving people more credit than they deserve in the course of a custody evaluation or something like that.
Well,
Is that what I'm hearing?
it's just that you have parents that are trying to protect their children, and the children are getting sent to live with the abusers. And if we had better trained people in the courts that knew what to look for,
That's what I'm saying.
then we would be able to identify
People are still
it.
going to slip through the cracks. People are still going to make mistakes. But you're saying right now there are mistakes that don't need to be made because
Yeah.
people are ignorant
Yeah.
of some of the warning signs and some of the evidence that's being misunderstood
Yeah.
or misinterpreted.
Yeah. Well, back in the day, I mean, they thought that domestic violence was caused by mental illness, by the victim's actions, by substance abuse, a whole slew of things. But we know now that it's caused by the abuser's belief system because they believe they have the right to control their victims. And it's not because of mental illness. Sometimes it may be co-occurring, but it's not caused by it. So, you know, they go to a custody evaluator and they're put through a slew of tests that are psychological tests. They have nothing to do with the abuser's belief system, so it's not going to identify them.
Are there tests that can test for this?
No, not that I know of. But maybe there are.
Well, I appreciate you talking to us about this. And is there a place where people can review the draft of the legislation?
There's not. They can email me if they'd like a copy.
All right. What's your email?
Ronni, Ronni, B as in boy, Adams, ADAMS, @gmail.com.
Thank you so much for meeting with us.
You're welcome.
And we'll follow up on that. Is this going to be, have you found a sponsor in the legislature for it?
We're just in the midst of finalizing that. It's probably going to be Ed Red. He's my legislator up in Logan. He's been very supportive. And we're hoping to introduce it for the 2017 legislative session, but if not, we'll be there next year.
Well, let me know what's happening, and maybe we can get
will.
together again sometime in a quieter
great.
place. But thanks again. And I appreciate Ronni coming out to talk
Yeah,
to me
thanks
and
for having
letting
me.
you know about this. And as I said, we do it at Utah Family Law TV. We monitor what happens in the legislative sessions every year.
Oh,
So
nice.
maybe we'll run into each other.
Yes, I'm sure we will.
Thanks again.
Thank you.